Hey, welcome to our episode of Chad's Beer Podcast. I'm talking to Stephanie, aka Craft Beer Girl. What's going on?
Hey, good to be here.
In case you missed it, we just reviewed Cherry Shoof. Um, well, no spoilers, but we both liked it, so I'll leave it at that. I'll put links somewhere if you guys want to watch it. So anyway, as I was saying on the review, Stephanie is in Orlando. I'm in Sanford. We're only like a half hour apart. And I don't know how, but we just met through Instagram. I think we must have like a ton of Instagram followers and followees in common.
Probably a lot of I've even run into a lot of people, especially like a la carte and stuff, like during beer week, like here and there. I run into like a lot of the girls that I follow and like follow me back.
Yeah. Like, do you know Orlando Beer Babe?
Yeah, and her,
Yeah.
like, I've run into her and her husband at like a la carte, and I run into different people, and half the time I don't even remember people's names. I'm like, I just
Yeah.
vaguely remember their handles.
Yeah. Or like you only know them by their
Yeah.
Instagram name or their YouTube name. Like before we started recording, I was like, oh my God, I forgot her name. I was like, I want to say it's Stephanie, but like for a second I thought it was like, no, I think it's like Kristen.
And I'm bad
Yeah.
at names to begin with. Like you can say it, I've done the repeating back thing and it out my head.
Yeah.
It's ADHD, it just gets lost somewhere. I
Yeah.
can remember like important stuff. I'll like remember things about someone, but the name I'm like oh yeah, that's that guy from so and so. His favorite color is blue, and such and such. My dog is Fido, but name.
Yeah. So you're a nurse in your day job, right?
Yeah.
Do you have to like remember patient? You ever forget patients' names or whatever?
I mean, specifically where I'm at right now, don't really have to remember their names. I work in mostly it's urology and neurology surgery. So I go up to my patient before surgery and ask their name and date of birth, but I'm comparing to this paper that has their name and date of birth on it when they repeat it to me. Like we're just verifying before surgery that it's the right patient, right thing, and consent and everything. And then once we're in the room and we do the official, like we call it a timeout, where we read the patient name, date of birth, procedure, and all that stuff. Everyone agrees. I'm reading it off of paper then too. So
is that like a new like regulation? Because like I go to the VA and like every time you just like talk to somebody else, they make you start all over. Like, can you verify your name? Can you verify your last four, your date of birth or whatever?
yeah, I mean, I've been a nurse since 2017, so I don't know what the practice was before that. But in nursing school, we learned it's always a double verification. It's always name and date of birth, so you're knowing you're getting that right patient.
Yeah,
yeah,
and so
I was bad at patients' names too. When I worked in the hospital, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. He's here for asthma exacerbation. He's allergic to these medications. He's also got hypertension and diabetes. And like, I tell you all the things about him. I'll tell you the recent lab values, but like, what's his name? I'm like, I don't know. Let me check my paper.
Yeah, do you ever hear horror stories of like people who like they need their left foot amputated and the doctor amputated their right foot or something like that?
Yeah, that's why the timeout thing like is a big thing. And like, I mean, if the steps are taken, they shouldn't get skipped, because when the surgeon goes to see the patient to sign that consent, the patient has to verify, like they have to write on the patient, like if it's one side or the other, left versus right. Or
this is
on
the
our
good
case,
leg. This is the bad leg.
yeah. Or on our case, we do a lot of kidney stuff. So if we're like blasting a kidney stone on the left, we put a wristband on the left that says left. So we're verifying the right side that way. And then we're repeating, like in the timeout, everyone's agreeing that what I'm reading off the consent is what we're reading. So it gets verified multiple times. But I mean, I'm sure people skip steps. Like,
yeah, it's just human error.
And in the past, I don't know what the official guidelines were years ago, but I know what, like, since I've been an OR nurse, which is maybe just under 2 years, this is the official way we do timeout and verify. And everyone's asking the same questions from scratch. And like, just my CRNA comes with me, but like they have to ask patient name, date of birth, allergies. We ask it all separately, so we know we're not all like, we don't even give them the answer to their surgery, but like my patient has to tell me independently what surgery they're getting. I can't be like, oh, are you having a left kidney stone lasered today? I'm like, what are we having done today?
So
and
you're
like,
actually
kidney stone, and I'm like, what side? And then they have to tell me like of their own free will.
Yeah. So you're actually in the operating room.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Just like hand the doctor the tools and stuff?
No, those are the scrub techs. I'm what you call it's a circulator nurse. So I see the patient all the way through from pre-op until PACU. Like the pre-op nurse gets them ready, starts their IV. So I verify their consent and everything and pick them up with my anesthesia. It's either the anesthesiologist if we only have one OR, or it could be the CRNA if we have a couple. And then we go back to the OR. I help position the patient for whatever surgery they need. Sometimes, like if it's a kidney stone, your legs are up in these stirrups, kind of like women at the gynecologist. Or if it's something, a normal type of surgery, like we'll maybe have you just laying on your back or possibly on your stomach. So I get them positioned right. We have to make sure nothing's going to injure themselves, especially the arms, because we can't have like your arm in a weird position that's going to mess with the nerve and really tweak something. So we have to, and then pad anything bony that might get a pressure sore. So we position them and then make sure we do the count, which is with the scrub tech, we count certain instruments used in the surgery. Like if it's not like an open body orifice where you can't like lose instruments, we're just counting like the needles on the sutures, like the blades, these special gauzes that have a little like X-rayable string in them, like called Raytex, like soft spongy things that they put in the body are X-rayable. Like make sure like if we do lose it, we can't count, then we X-ray the patient to find it. But we count we count before the patient goes under, and then we count when they're closing. We count at the end, so we're making sure nothing was left inside. And then I read the timeout, and then so everyone agrees what we're doing. And then I do all the documentation, and anesthesia does their own documentation, and anything they need during the procedure. Let's see, they go in there and they break up a kidney stone with a laser, but then like there's pieces of it left. So they need this little like basket. It's like a little claw grabber to go get it out. Like, oh, give me a basket. So I have to go and get that and like sterilely open, and we kind of like banana peel things so that scrub can grab them. So we're not like everything is like opened in a very sterile fashion. So anything that needs to be added to the sterile field, that's what I do. And then the scrub tech, there are still scrub nurses, but not as many because actually scrub techs are cheaper. But a nurse can be a scrub. And then
this is a beer podcast, so let's get back to the beer part.
And then I drop them off in recovery, and that's it.
You call yourself like, but let me bring up your if I can remember how to do this. I just wanted to bring up. Whoops. All right, so this is Stephanie's Instagram. Your craft.beer.girl, like everywhere.
Yeah, I created it many years ago. Like in 2017, I was still in nursing school, and there was already a craft beer girl, so I put some dots in between it. And sometimes there's dashes depending on what punctuation different sites let you use. So, but I actually follow the original craft beer girl. So,
did you ever see Batman and Robin, the one with George Clooney?
No, I didn't really watch one of the DC movies.
Well, there's
Marvel Girl.
Alicia Silverstone's in that, and she becomes Batgirl, and like there's a part where he says, "Why Batgirl and not Batwoman or Batperson?" So, yeah, why craft beer girl and not craft beer woman or craft beer human or craft beer individual?
I just like the way it sounded.
That's the difference between
better than craft beer woman.
That's the difference between men and women. Is like no matter how old you are as a woman, you can still be whatever girl, you know. But like, if I said I was craft beer boy, you know, that'd be like kind of creepy or weird or whatever, you know.
That's probably craft beer man's sidekick.
Yeah.
Wears his underwear on the outside like Doug and little Kate.
I'm sure there. I can't believe, or maybe somebody's done it. Like maybe like a craft beer man beer, like a superhero.
Like Duff Man in The Simpsons.
Yeah, I just did a search on Untapped to see if there's a beer called Craft Beer Man, but nobody's taken that. That'd be perfect, you know, because like I love, like I mean, you've seen, whoops, like I don't know if you save labels or not, but like I save if it's on a can, it's a sticker, you
Mhm.
know? Like I have all these like this is like a Futurama
Mhm.
one. And I know I have like some Simpsons ones and like any label that's like I think is like really funny or interesting.
Yeah, I keep some
Um
of them. I don't know where I put a couple away today, but I have a big stash somewhere. At one
I
time,
can't believe
I had them inside a poster frame, but it was taking up too much space. So.
I can't believe somebody hasn't done a craft beer man like as a Superman parody or something like that, you know? That would be a perfect beer label. Cuz I think especially like in today's current craft beer market is like the label does most of the work.
Mhm.
So, I mean, like I said this for years, is I think it's easier to sell a bad beer with an awesome label than it is to sell an awesome beer with a lousy label. Like, I don't know. Actually, a lot of like the Belgian Trappist beers, you know, great beers. The labels are kind of boring. Like they're just not as funny and catching as like something from like Other Half or Equilibrium or whatever. You know.
Mhm.
Do you think, like when you shop for a beer, do you ever buy a beer like just for the label, just because the label caught your eye?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like the names and the labels will reel me in. Like even if I see like an insert like stupid name, like I'm gonna
Mhm.
buy this so I can check in a beer with this name.
Yeah, that's like I get most of my beer on Tavor. I don't know if you ever use that app or not.
No, mostly I buy my most of my local beer at like Whippoorwill or at the local breweries.
Hmm.
Sometimes
I
like
only
Commission Beer
buy,
Chamber, like
I pretty much only
listen to
buy
listen
one
theory.
bottle at a time. Like I hardly ever buy a 4 pack or a 6 pack.
Yeah, that's what I buy. I buy singles, so that's why I like Whippoorwill and like Commission
Hmm.
and GB Bottle Shop. Like they have all like the singles you can buy.
Yeah, I I like GBs, but they're kind of like really out of the way for me. Like I have to
Mhm.
be down in Orlando to go there, and like there's nowhere to park.
Yeah,
Unless
you
you
gotta
park
kind of
at
park on the
the
side
fresh
street.
market and just walk. What part of the city are you in?
I live in downtown Orlando.
Wow, are you
So
in
like
like one of those
like the
high
Mill
rises
City
that's
area,
like
that's like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, yeah. And I live in like a mid-rise, not those like really tall ones, but it's
oh,
nice.
okay?
Like it's nice being able to walk places. Unfortunately, we don't have a good walkable brewery downtown. We used to have Orange County Brewers, and that moved up to that Lake Mary area, and then
Yeah, they're not too far from
Motorworks
here.
is in their old location, but they just never seem to have anything new. I glance at their menu every once in a while. That would be like a 15-minute walk for me, but like I keep looking at their menu and there's never anything new. Like I want the new things. Like I want to
Yeah,
get
that's how I
lights
am
and I
too.
want to try the new things. So
Yeah,
there's a good variety near me. Like 12 Talons is like a couple miles down the road. Rock Pit is not too far. Hourglass in the district is close. Both a la carte locations, Soto and Milk District. Um, Ivanhoe's not far. Ivanhoe Lager House. There's a lot of like close by breweries. Tactical is actually pretty close. Like frequent that. Like that's next to one of the LA Fitnesses I go to. So.
my parents were just in town last week, and I picked them up from the Winter Park Amtrak station, and then we went to Baldwin Park, and we were just like walking around down there, and like Tactical was there, but they weren't open.
Mhm.
I've actually never been there, but I don't know if you know Mateo, aka Beer Reviewer. Um, he's one of I think he has like 25,000 check-ins on Untapped. I think he was my last guest like a month ago, and he's in Texas, and he's heard of Tactical Brewing all the way out there, and I think that he's actually either ordered beers from them or like traded for beers from them.
I
Like
love Tactical. It's like it's probably my favorite
they do
current
mostly
brewery
sours, right?
because they have like they have frequent new releases, and that's what I look for. And they try a lot. They do a lot of sours and a lot of like weird styles, like ube sours and all sorts of different flavors and stuff. And then they just had that. I just went to their yearly Faded Kingdom, which is the beer fest they put on in front. It has like breweries from all over, but it's a good variety of like breweries just from like all over the U.S. Like
Yeah, I
little
wanted
ones.
Whoops. Just wanted to show. Hang on. All right, so I just wanted to show your Instagram because a lot of the times you're holding beer that's like it looks like Gatorade or something. Like
Yeah,
this one,
that's
it's like
that's tactical.
yeah,
The brighter the color, the more likely it is tactical.
yeah, and like every day, like I check like your story. I guess it doesn't show on the website. Sorry.
Mhm.
But it's like I seem it feels like every day you're like at a brewery, or
I
is
mean,
that just
every couple days.
oh really? Okay.
Not every day. It varies because my work schedule never gets out at the same time. So some of my
Mhm.
days are actually pretty early. Like sometimes I'll even get out by like 1 or 2, and it depends where I go. Like if I have 2 LA Fitnesses I go to that are probably the same distance, but if I go to one, Rock Pit is like 5 more minutes down the way. If I go to the other one, Tactical is a little down the way. Hourglass is not too far coming back from one, and like so there's so many close by. And then Ivanhoe Lager House, I went there the other day because that's maybe 10-minute drive for me. Like there's so many close ones that like if I'm running errands in the area, there's easily a brewery on the way home.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you drive or do you ride a bike around, or both?
If I'm going to like a close brewery for like a flight or something, I'll drive. Sometimes I'll Uber if I plan on having more. And then there's not really I walk to anymore. When Broken Strings closed down, I went to that like their closing party, and that like I
Mhm.
took one of those scooters there.
Oh, yeah, the Lime scooters.
Yeah,
I've never actually taken one
and
of those.
except I mean, it would have been a quick walk, but it's also in Paramore, which is a little sketch area. So I'm like, let me
Yeah.
get there fast.
Well, that's where the Orlando City stadium is. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can see. This is like my water bottle, but I put all these Orlando City stickers on it. Like you should see my car. It's like all Orlando City themed. Like this, it has purple seat covers, has Orlando City banner on the ceiling, and like I have like 2 tablets because I do Uber and Lyft like as one of my jobs, and like I have like their schedule, and so like if anybody ever wants to talk about soccer, like I'll talk to them about it.
Yeah, I was big on them for a couple years, and then just all the players I know and love slowly left.
Mhm.
Like the ones I love, like Kyle Laren, he left, and like Tally Hall, he went to go be a Orange Orlando police officer, and
Oh, really? Wow.
but, like the ones I know and that loved, and then I got busy with like I used to be like a member of Iron Lion Firm for a good number of years, maybe like 4 to 6. I still have all my T-shirts and stuff, and then I just stopped going.
Mhm.
Like because the people in the club changed, like the people my friends like were no longer there, a lot of like new people. I was like I no longer know who all these players are, and most of my friends that I hang out with are no longer coming around, so I'm like, all right.
Well, they've been getting
Yeah.
better every year. So like last year they went to the conference final game.
Hmm.
So hopefully this year they'll actually make it to the finals. Whether or not they win it all is a different story. Although the women are really good too. The women won the championship last year.
Hmm. Yeah, I've never went into one of the women's games, but
You should go because like the tickets are fairly cheap and like there's not that many people there, so you can basically sit wherever you want.
mhm. I mean, years ago I had season passes, like when I first started going, because it was a good deal. They were still the Citrus Bowl at that time,
Oh
but
yeah, it's a
it
bigger
was a good
one.
deal, and you could easily sell them for at least face value, if not more. And I was like, if I
Mhm.
can't make up every game, at least I can get my money back for it. But then the prices went up, and people were selling them at below cost, and they're hard to get rid of. I'm like, well, I can't make it to every game because at that time I was working in the hospital, so a lot of times I did work a Saturday, Sunday, and
Yeah.
so you couldn't easily get rid of the ones you couldn't go to.
What I always like to when I meet like people like us who are like real beer nerds, like I mean, if you're gonna like create an Instagram account like just to show the beers that you're drinking, like that actually it actually kind of is a gutsy move if you think about it, especially if you're gonna put your face out there. A lot of people just post pictures of like whatever beer they're drinking and they don't show themselves, which is kind of boring, but I mean it's kind of cool to see what other people are drinking. Um, but so like the question I always ask people, basically, if you're on this podcast, is like, what's like your beer origin story? Like, how did you become the beer enthusiast that you are today?
Well, I mean, in college, I was drinking all the normal beers out of the kegs, Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, and then
Mhm.
eventually I discovered like what I would consider now is like the boring craft beers, like Blue Moon, Orange Blossom Pilsner, Shock
Yeah.
Top, like Raspberry Wheat. I really liked back in the day. Leinenkugel Sunset Wheat like was my favorite. I would buy that by the 6-pack all the time, and still they stopped making it.
Oh. Was
And then
there was that
at
like
one time I
there
heard it
like
was coming back, and I just never saw it back in Florida. But I could always find that even at like Target and Publix. I was always buying 6-pack. And then Leinenkugel had some other ones like the different shandies and stuff. And then just kept trying more and more. And then I found like ABC and Total Wine who sold like the single beer. So I buy those. And then there more beer places sprouted up that like World of Beer, and there was one near Kissimmee was called House of Beer, and just different places where you could try a whole bunch of different beers and start trying more and more.
Mhm.
And then my friends like turned me on to Untapped, and could start finding these beers and seeing where they
Yeah.
were. And then we were like competing, but like, oh, I've had this one. Like, I have a friend that's had like, I don't
Yeah.
know what his current count is, but like years ago it was like well over 5,000. It's like
Yeah, it's kind of
I'm at
like
like
a
almost at like 4,500 right now, but I've been logging them in Untapped since like 2014.
yeah, I was gonna say it's kind
That's
of like a
10 years.
collector's mentality, like I don't did you ever play Pokemon as a kid? Gotta catch them all. Like
No,
that's how a lot of beer nerds are.
I
Well,
collected other things. I
if you're
collected like
millennial.
hogs and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I'm Gen X, so like Pokemon was a little after my time.
Mm.
But I was always a collector of stuff, even as a kid. Comics, baseball cards, toys, stuff like that. It's just kind of like once you get into something, it's like I mean, you can see I have like this beer fridge right here, like just for beer, and
Mm.
it's like everything in here is like meant for reviews for like this show. Like, there's been many times where I'm like tempted, like where I just want to grab something and drink it, but then it's like, well, I want to sit down in front of the camera and tell the audience about it. Like I
Yeah.
hardly keep like any beer in the fridge, like in the main fridge. And although breweries do send me beer every once in a while, which they sent me, I got 8 beers from Bold Cider or Hard Bold Cider. I forgot the name of it, but yeah, I was just expecting one, and they sent me a 6-pack and 12-ounce bottles, and then 2 500 ml cans. Or Bold Rock, that's it. It was
Yeah,
like
both are, that
an
sounds
orange cider. Yeah, I mean it was fine. To me, it kind of tastes like a orange flavored Mike's Hard Lemonade, not so much cider.
yeah. I used to drink them from time to time. I don't try too many ciders nowadays.
Well, I'm trying to become I'm certified. Well, you probably can't see it, but I'm certified beer judge, and I'd like to become a cider judge and mead judge eventually. So like this whole year, I'm just kind of like every Saturday I'm doing what I call Cider Saturday, where I review a cider. And the hard part about ciders though is like they're kind of hard to screw up. Like and like there's way less styles of cider than there is beer. Yeah, there's probably like well over 100 different beer styles. There's
Mhm.
like a dozen maybe of cider,
Yeah.
and there's even less of mead. Um, have you ever pursued or considered getting a beer judge certification?
No, I haven't even heard of that. Like I've heard of like a Cicerone, but I haven't heard of beer
Oh
jug.
well, BJCP was around way before Cicerone. Well, I mean, like BJCP was, and always it is mostly for like judging homebrew, because like there's homebrew competitions, there's homebrew clubs. When I used to live in New York, I was in a homebrew club, and I actually made like pretty good stuff. And I like we would have club competitions, and then they would have like regional and statewide competitions. And I would usually like medal at least, like maybe not get best in show or something, but I made a lot of like really good beers. It's actually homebrewing isn't not too hard as long as you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's all about sanitation.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like in Orlando, actually, I don't think it's just Orlando. I think it's like nationwide. There's that Beer Babes family. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Are you in that? Are you a member of that?
Like I follow them on like Facebook and stuff, and like apparently they're having like a meetup like coming up, and I'm like, I just it's never lined up where like I've been like free and they've been somewhere. A lot of times on weekends, I'm like just getting my errands done and like don't
Yeah, I
even.
just wanted to show the viewers. This is their Instagram.
Mm.
They have like 11,000 followers because I know they've done a lot of brews in Orlando. Like, and it's funny actually at Broken Strings, which I guess they closed now.
Yeah,
So
pretty recently. Like I ran into some of the girls, like some of the brew girls that they're probably part of that at that closing.
All right, what happened with Broken Strings? So is that facility like empty now, or are they trying to find a new owner, or do you know?
I'm not sure. I know they had trouble for a while because I know a while back something happened with their fridge and they had to do a GoFundMe because they couldn't afford to fix it. So it was probably the start of the money troubles when can't afford to fix the fridge, and like just a lot of businesses like they've struggled for a while and they go down. Like Hammered Lamb just closed recently. Like they struggled for a while. They did some fundraisers and.
Well, I think the craft beer bubble as a whole is kind of starting to burst. Like, I mean, even like Sanford Brewing closed,
Mm-hmm.
but then they got bought out by Brewlando, and I know they reopened the Maitland facility, but the one here in Sanford is still closed. They're eventually going to reopen it under Brewlando. I don't know. Do you know Darwin? He does Darwin's beer reviews.
I don't think so.
You might recognize him if you saw him. Well, it's funny. He's from New York like me, and he moved down here almost at the same time I did. So let me bring up his. This is his Instagram, although he's much bigger on YouTube. He has a bigger following than I do, even though he started after I did. He lives in Orlando, and he is a bartender at the Maitland Brewlando location. And actually, I think they have a few different locations now because he started out with Sanford, and yeah. So if you watch his channel, he's talking about what's going on with Brewlando and Sanford Brewing all the time. I don't know where I was going with that, but
Just about different places closing down, but
yeah. Oh yeah.
Orlando seems to be buying a lot because didn't their original location that used to be Castle Church, right?
Yeah, I think it was Curryford Road.
I guess they're just expanding.
Have you had any of their beers? You ever been there?
Yeah, I went there when there was Castle Church, and I think I've been there at least once since it was Brewlando. It's a little out of the way. It's more, I guess, like for me, it's like more going toward like the airport side.
Mm-hmm. We kind of covered this already, but like, what would you say is like your favorite style or styles of beer? You're mostly into sours, or
Sours are my top ones, and then I like stouts because people can get pretty creative with those as well. I like the weirder the better. Like one of my favorite breweries is Martin House out in
in Texas. Yeah,
they make a whole bunch of different pickle beers.
I've never. Where'd you get their beer? Because I only got them on Tavor. I've never seen them.
I was
stores.
First time I went there. I was in Dallas, so I went there, and I brought home I bought a suitcase just to bring back beer from Martin House and 903, which is in Sherman, Texas. It's like an hour north of Dallas. Like the first time I went to Texas, so I just brought additional luggage so I could bring those beers home. I think I brought like 35 cans home. I'm like, there's only so much
how I am too.
when you're there. And then when I went travel nursing at the end of 2023 out to Austin, Texas, I made a detour through the Dallas-Fort Worth area on the way there so I could get some Martin House beers. And then while I was there, I went up at one point to go visit a friend who lives in like the Fort Worth area.
On your Instagram, you have like I don't know what they call these, like the story archives or whatever.
Yeah. I haven't made any of those in a while or added anything to them. Like for a while, I would get little pictures from different places.
Mm-hmm. So you travel for work?
No,
or is this just for fun?
I just did. I travel mostly for fun, but I got into travel nursing because I I'd gone to Austin last summer. First, I went to like Dallas. I really liked there, especially the breweries. Then I went to Austin, and I loved it so much. And then I like as I was leaving Austin, like July of 2023, I was just looking at airfare, and I happened to find a ticket for like a month later on my day off because I was working like 4-day weeks, like 4 10s. So I
Right.
always knew when my next like 4-day weekend would happen because it was on like a rotating calendar. And like on my next weekend off, it was like $110 round trip. So I booked it and took another trip. And I'm like, there's just so much in Austin I really wanted to explore. So
With
travel nursing, and I drove out there, was there for 13 weeks, and I completed the Austin Ale Trail, which is at that time some of the brewers even closed while I was working on the trail. But I joined kickball when I went out there because I play kickball here, and like that's the best way as an adult to meet friends. So I was going to a strange city, so I did that. And one of the girls on my team was like, "Hey, you're into beer? Like, there's this Austin Ale Trail." So I got this passport, and by the time I finished it, there was like 59 breweries on there. So in my 13 weeks, I stopped at all 59 of them.
That's a lot. Wow.
It was
Are you?
like a goal to complete, just like the Central Florida Ale Trail. I don't know if any form of it exists anymore, but I did it many years ago. You would get the stamps, and then at the end, you got a growler that had names of all the breweries on it.
I think there was like a Sanford one or like a Sanford / DeBerry one. 'Cause there's a couple breweries like in DeBerry and Deltona in
Yeah,
the
the
land.
Central Florida one was very spread out, like far. Like the Sanford breweries were on it, and like my last two breweries, I went to Crooked Can, and then my last brewery I hadn't been to was Red Cypress, and those are 40 minutes apart. I'm like, well, I just have one more.
Yeah,
So
Red Cypress closed
I
too.
completed it. Now Red Cypress also is closed. Like I would say most of the breweries on there are no longer,
Yeah.
or at
So
least
I mean, you were saying you like sours and stouts. Are you a fan of hazy IPAs?
I'll
Seems like
try
everybody.
some of them. I'm not big on IPAs. I prefer more like the double triple IPAs because like they're more boozy, but they're softer on the like the bitterness.
Mhm.
It's like the hazies I'll try too. Like I'll try anything in flight form. I can
Yeah.
commit 5 ounces of anything. There's seldom a beer I've had where it was just so terrible I couldn't even finish that much. I drink my flights. I drink them, like I drink one like couple sips of each and like give it its rating and untap, so I'm not constantly on my phone. I've all checked them all in, and then I just drink them from like least favorite to most favorite. So I'm left with the best taste at the end.
Yeah. Do you have like a least favorite style? Like stuff you won't or well, I mean, I don't have anything that I wouldn't drink, but there's definitely stuff that like isn't appealing to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try anything in flight form, but I mean, in general, I really don't do many brown ales. I don't do a whole lot of IPAs.
I used to love brown ales. I mean, I still do, but like hardly anybody makes them anymore. Like it's like to me, brown ale is like a Snickers bar because like it's chocolate, caramel, nutty,
Hmm.
kind of toasty. Like my first review that I ever did on this channel all the way back in 2008 was Newcastle Brown Ale when it actually was like an independent company, but like then they got bought out by Heineken and actually Lagunitas actually makes them in America for the American market now, and it's not the same, but like Cigar City Maduro, that's a pretty good one. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
like
they're
some of the
all similar. Like, whereas, like, that's why I like my sours. I'm like, there's all the weird, like the stouts and like the sours. Like, there's such weird flavors people can add to them.
yeah.
People don't get as venturous with like browns and stuff. Occasionally, you'll find something. I don't remember what brand it was. I've tried like because most peanut butter jelly beers I've had have been sours, but there's been at least one like peanut butter jelly brown that I've tried.
Yeah, do you ever have the Sweet Baby Jesus? That's
Yeah,
more of a peanut butter cup. Yeah.
yeah, peanut butter. I think there's a couple variations of it.
Yeah, they have a coffee one and a chocolate one and yeah. Um, I used to love they don't make them anymore. Were you around for like the what I call the rainbow IPA era? It's probably about 10, 15 years ago. Like cuz this is before hazy, so you had like brown IPAs, white IPAs, red IPAs, black
Yeah,
IPAs.
I don't remember those because like I was like, I was about 30 back then, 10 years ago, but I'm like, my beginning into like beers, I was trying like more like the fruity wheat beers is where I started branching off, and
Mhm.
IPAs like I stayed away from like the longest time because most of them were like the more bitter variety
Yeah.
until they started making more of like the hazy styles and like the imperials, doubles, triples, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's it's funny. It's like that's when I first started doing this show. It's like when that style like really blew up. Like, well, like the old school like West Coast IPAs like Stone Ruination and Dogfish Head 90 Minute and stuff like that. Like just like those huge high IBU beers. And then the hazies came along and like kind of turned it on its head. So instead of clear and super bitter, they're like we're gonna be like super murky and
Yeah.
like smooth and like
People used
hardly
to
like
want to see through their beers, and now
yeah.
like they don't care, like because they know like not everything needs to be seen through. But back in the day, it was like, oh yeah, like looks like you can hold up your Bud Light and see through it. I brewed a double IPA once. Like I've only brewed from kits, only like a 1 gallon. So
Mhm.
over kits, but that one I doctored because the kit actually came from an ex of mine. Like we were brewing a beer and then we broke up, so he never wanted it back, so it became mine. And we didn't brew the double IPA that came with the kit. I'm like, well, I don't want to let this go to waste. I'm not big into IPAs. I'm like, what can I add to this? I was like looking at citrus and stuff because like I always had some citrus IPAs. I'm like, that was good, but I'm like, people do that all the time. So then I was like at Publix, I saw banana extract. I'm like, banana. So I tried it
Mhm.
and it actually turned out really good. It was a little bit overcarbonated. Like I would pop the bottle and like a couple seconds later it would bubble over. But I
Yeah.
shared it with like a lot of my beer friends. Like they all liked it. It turned out pretty good. I called it hopped up on bananas.
Do you still have your homebrewing equipment?
Yeah, it's just like a basic the 1 gallon carboy kit. I haven't brewed in years because
Yeah. You should
years
get back
ago,
into it.
like the steam, like over the at the place I lived then, and same as where I live now, like there's the microwave over the stove, and I think all the steam is what caused the keypad to short out. So I've been afraid
Uh,
to
yeah, I
boil
think that happened
food
to
for
me when
a
I
long
used to
time. And I
yeah,
live
when I
in
used
a
to
condo. I don't have a garage or anything. I can do
yeah,
anything.
when I lived in Albany, I was in a house that was a front and back apartment. It was great because like, we had, like, a actual basement and
Mhm.
had a garden hose and everything in a backyard, so I could actually brew outside, you know? I mean, under the winters were, like, brutally cold. It's funny 'cause, I was just talking to my sister before we started, and she just started doing DoorDash on the weekends, and she's like, "They're offering us $3 peak pay, but I'm not driving in this snow." I'm like, "It's like 80 degrees here." That was my parents came down. Like, it was, like, in the 20s in Albany, and then they get off the plane here, and it's, like, in the 80s, and they're like, "Oh, it's just such a nice break from the cold." I forgot to are you originally from Florida?
Yeah, I was born and raised in West Palm Beach and Wellington area, and
Mhm.
came up to Orlando when I turned 18 to go to UCF, and just been here ever since.
Okay. Yeah, I'm from
I do
upstate
not
New
do
York.
cold. I do not do cold. I do not do snow. I saw snow once I was 12. Didn't like it.
Well, you travel a lot, but you haven't been to, like,
I don't
any,
travel to
like
when it's cold. Like in
you know,
Austin,
I guess you're not a
it got
skier
a
then.
little chilly, but it I left a couple days before I was supposed to because I had finished my last shift. I was supposed to leave on a Sunday, but that like Sunday, Monday, like the temperature was supposed to drop to like 19 degrees.
Mhm.
And it was like Thursday was my last shift, so I'm like, I'm leaving on Friday. I'm leaving, getting out of here before it gets cold. And then when I went up to it's Albany, Georgia, was my last travel contract. I like the house I was staying at, like the ice on my car. I was like de-icing my car to go to work. Like they had a bird bath in the backyard that like froze over. I'm like, I don't like any of this. But I only ended up staying there for like 3-ish weeks. I hurt my elbow at my job and then came back home and
Yeah.
did a lot of physical therapy and started my new job here. But I wanted to go back to the OR anyway.
Well, I always said, like, I don't mind when it's cold outside, I mind when it's cold inside. I hate, like, being indoors and having to wear a sweater
Mhm.
or a hoodie or something, you know, or having to turn the heat on. Like,
Yeah,
it can be,
I
like,
have
100
my
degrees
heat
out.
on. I have a couple of those little like space heater fans. I have like one, like I got like three of them that I can scatter around the house. I'll turn those on first, like for the immediate area I'm in, before I'll turn on like the heat. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not that expensive. Like I live in a like a little 1-1 condo, so I want to turn on the heat, it's really not going to cost that much money. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to heat the whole place because then it gets a little like dry and there's heat area where I'm at.
I always wonder,
heater at me.
how did you get your hair so like just the end is like pink or whatever color that is?
Well, I've been so when it's down, I just divide it into 2 little pigtails and like just use like semi-permanent dye on the ends.
Mm-hmm.
And just like stick them in gloves while they like wait for like 30 minutes and then wash it out. So it looks different depending on what I style my hair. But like if I like a lot of times I'll like have it like in a bun and there's just pink pieces sticking out, or I do the twist where it's like just up and like waterfall down. Like all it is just the ends.
At least you have hair. I can't really. I couldn't really do that. Yeah, you always wear like the scarves or whatever.
Yeah, I do a lot of headbands. My family is cursed with the 5 head.
Yeah.
Which is bigger than a 4 head.
Well, I can kind of I can relate to you there.
So I bring the like scarf, like the headbands down. They kind of do it. And plus, all those little hair, like little broken hairs that will stick up, it kind of smooths those over. That's the main reason I do it. And right now, I'm just wearing my gym clothes. I never got around to go into the gym, but it's also my leisure clothes. Like that started during COVID. It was like either gym clothes or scrubs, and
that's another thing I was going to ask you is like, you know, if you look at your Instagram, like a lot of your pictures are like in either bikinis or gym clothes or whatever, but at the same time you're also pretty fit. So it's like, how do you drink so much beer and still stay in shape?
I mean, I eat pretty healthy. I like my diet is like I don't follow anything specifically, but in general, like I'm very like low carb because I call beer my carb.
Yeah, I'm like that too.
Like I hardly ever eat pasta. Like I like pizza and tacos and stuff like that, but in general, like I eat pretty healthy and like I do go to the gym multiple days a week and go running. And for a while, I had joined a rock climbing gym, but eventually I wasn't going to my regular gym enough. I'm like I have too much stuff going on, so and I go for runs and like I'm doing I always do like the best damn race 5K. This will be my like 3rd or 4th year in a row at the beginning of March, and I try to do one 5K a year. And like yesterday, I went paddleboarding because I happened to have the day off. Like our normal Friday surgeon was on vacation, so we could choose to have the day off or come in and do stupid stuff like stocking and inventory and whatever. So like, I'll take the day off and take a weekday because I was like an Apopka off of King's Landing. It's Emerald Cut. It's like just a couple feet deep of like this crystal clear water. And so I'm like, I'm always doing something active.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram. You're like kayaking or something, right?
Yeah, that was and paddleboard.
Do you do that stuff? It seems like when I look at your Instagram, you seem like it just seems like you're by yourself a lot. Like, do you do a lot of activities solo, or am I just not seeing the cameraman?
No, I do a lot of stuff alone just because I don't plan stuff ahead of time. I just think of the last minute. Like I booked that paddleboard reservation. Like I have the paddleboard, but I booked the reservation like the night before. I'm like, oh, the weather looks good and I have off. I think I'll do that. I do a lot of last minute stuff. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll see my friends on my Instagram, but in general, I try not to like post people unless they want to be posted. And like,
right.
I put myself out there, but I put only certain pieces of my life out there. I put the beer out there and I put like my fitness out there because I want to show people that you can drink beer and be fit. My dog gets some attention against her will because she doesn't get a choice.
Oh yeah. Your dog's, I don't know if she's it's funny. My friend Cynthia has like almost the exact same dog as you.
Yeah.
It's a Chihuahua, right?
A little Chihuahua.
How old is she?
She's a big girl. She's 14.
Yeah, I think that's how old my friend's dog is. She's
but like a month ago, she started having some back problems and not walking great. So that's what we've been doing lately is making sure she's good and putting yoga mats all over my floor so she can get better traction. I tried to put socks on her feet to get grip, and she was not about the socks.
Is that big?
Going out because like I want to take her. I've taken her to some breweries. Like she would just rather be home. She gets so anxious around people. So
yeah, how do you? This is something that I've talked to other beer people about for years. It's kind of like I don't get how, especially breweries, like even like restaurants now are like allowing people to like bring dogs in. Like, do you get flack from other people if you bring a dog to a brewery?
I mean, I only bring her if I know the brewery is okay with it. Like some places advertise themselves as dog-friendly breweries, like that,
Right.
like that don't serve food at all. So if someone advertises themselves as like dog-friendly, like I brought her there, or like some places like if they have a patio outside.
What's your dog's name, by the way?
Tinkerbell.
Okay.
Yeah,
That seems
I worked at
appropriate.
Disney when I got her, so I was big
Tink.
into Disney. I mean, not so much anymore, but I mean, she's small and blonde, and it still works.
I have 2 cats that I got like right when COVID started, and usually when I'm doing the show, they jump up here and you'll see their tails go in front of the camera like that. uh, anyway, I probably should have opened with this, but it's like, it's funny. I always ask like other guests, uh, you know, like what made you want to like put yourself out there on the internet for like to give your beer reviews or just your beer touring pictures and things like that. It actually is pretty gutsy to do that. I mean, it's just so much easier to just, like to not like maybe do Untapped at most, but to like actually have like a YouTube channel and an Instagram. Are you on TikTok?
No, I had it briefly, but I didn't do much with it, and then I just hated the platform. Like, I hate how as soon as you open it, it's like, here's a video that you're watching
Yeah.
right now with sound. And like, at least like
Yeah.
Instagram, I can go to the reels, like,
You
and,
can pick what you want to see.
and that fake voice they use to narrate it just drove me crazy.
Yeah, they have a bunch of different ones. But yeah, it's like I was saying this, it's kind of like um what motivated you to like to put yourself out there?
Yeah, Instagram was where it started because it started with like Untapped, and then I put it like started on Instagram. Like I was in nursing school. I like wasn't really I had
Mhm.
school and not much else, so would started sharing my beers and like because my friends like on Untapped we could share our beers with each other, but I'm like shouldn't other people just get to see what good beers I'm drinking? And I was like following other people. I'm like I want to see what they're drinking. I want to like if that looks good, I should go to this brewery and like someone shows a picture. I'm like from like Tactile. I'm like, oh, that's nearby. I should go there. And
Mhm.
then I added YouTube. I haven't done much with YouTube. I have a couple videos up there, and I have started a podcast like last year, but I haven't done much with it. There's only a couple short episodes on there, but I wanted to get more like YouTube and stuff up. But like I just wanted to share like my beer, and then like my friends have always asked me like, how are you staying in great shape with all like the beer you drink? I'm like, yeah, the fitness part of it. So
Yeah.
I kind of like those are the main things I like to show is like the fitness and the beer. I'm like, I want to show you, yes, you can drink and beer and stuff, and it's just, and it makes beer drinking a hobby and not a drinking problem.
Yeah.
If there's pictures of it.
I know. Like that's a problem is like people see you're posting like nothing or mostly just beer stuff and they just like assume you're like a drunk or alcoholic or whatever. And it's like, no, this is just like I am just able to make a lot of content out of this one niche,
Yeah, I would say like most, like I don't even drink most days of the week. Like I'd say maybe like 3, 4 days, but sometimes if I hit like 2 breweries, maybe I'll spread them out over 2 different days, and then
Really?
yeah, and then
I mean,
Austin
I'm
Ale
doing
Trail.
it.
When I did that, I couldn't keep up with it, like because I was like every day I was in Austin that I wasn't working, I was out exploring because I only had 13 weeks there, so I got really backlogged. It took a long time for me to post all those breweries because I wanted each of those breweries to get their own post. So I had to go back and look and see what I rated and everything. But my goal is to do more stuff in real time because yeah, when I go back and look what my Untapped rating is, I didn't put any notes, so I'm like I don't remember. But
I know that's the great thing. It's funny. I did a poll about that the other day. I said, like, how good is your beer memory? Like, for me, it's kind of like I only pretty much remember like the really, really good stuff and the really bad stuff, and like the stuff that's only like okay, or even, like I don't know. It's just like unless it's like a really memorable moment when I had that beer, I probably won't remember it exactly. And there's so many times. I mean, you're probably like at Total Wine and like you scan the barcodes with
yeah,
Untapped to see, oh wait, I had this 2 years ago. I didn't like it. It's
yeah.
like I don't remember having this, much less not
Well, I
liking
try
it.
not to repeat beers either. So if I'm going to like place, then I have to go to Untapped and be like, have I had this before? Which is why I really love breweries and like places that put their menu on Untapped, so I can
Yeah.
always already see those little green little slashes that said I already tried it. Like right now, like my check-ins, I don't pay attention to because if I've repeated something, I often don't recheck it in. But like the individual beers, right now where I'm at 4,492, so almost 4,500. So I'm like, I don't remember all the beers I've had, but I should put notes, but I really don't. But I can at least check the rating. I'm like, oh, that's what I thought of it. I'm like, oh, I gave that a 4.25. I'm like, I would definitely buy that again.
Yeah, we're like neck and neck because I'm at about 4,400 unique, and you're at like what 4,200 unique.
40, 44.92.
Oh, so you've actually had more unique beers than I have. I've had 7,500 total check-ins.
Yeah,
Are you checking in every individual, like when you do a flight, a sampler flight?
Yeah,
I do that too, but I don't rate flights because I feel like only 3 or 4 ounces like isn't really enough to.
I mean, I'll rate. Yeah, I'll rate it.
Give it a
I
fair.
feel that's enough to judge. If they just give me a sample, like to sip it, I'm like, oh, I don't know whether I want this or this, and they get me a little splash to taste, that I don't count that.
I don't count that either, but I'm talking about like the flight where it's actually a little 3 or 4 ounce like shot glass, you know. Like I'll check into it, but I won't score. I'll just put little like notes, but I have to have like a full glass, you know, like this to really rate it.
Yeah, I would never drink that many beers. Like mostly what I do drink is flights. So that's especially when I went to I did more of the tasters. When I did go to Faded Kingdom in front of Tactical a couple weeks ago, I had 28 new beers just from that.
Wow.
Some of those were a little bit smaller pours than a flight.
I feel like I'm
It's a beer
missing.
fest, so that's kind of completely different.
I feel like I'm missing like a lot of the Orlando craft beer scene, like up here in Sanford. Like I've been to everywhere in Sanford and Lake Mary, Longwood, that area, but like actual like closer to you, like actual Orlando proper. Like I've hardly been to like anything down there. I probably should. I don't know if you know, but like when I first moved here, I used to write the Orlando Sentinel used to have like a blog online for like various like niche things like you know, like and like there was like you know movie reviews and like you know just you know politics and just stuff like that, like stuff people would blog about, and it was on the Orlando Sentinel. And when I first moved here from Albany in 2015, I used to write a beer blog for the Albany Times Union because they had the same thing on their website. And when I moved to Orlando, I noticed that they didn't have an Orlando beer blog, so I actually contacted them and you know offered to start it, which I did for about like a year. And then Orlando Sentinel got rid of their online blogs. But I remember when I first moved here, because I actually lived in Lakeland. Because I used to work for Publix when I first moved here at the headquarters out there, and there was a Lakeland Brewing Company, and I went there like actually like almost as soon as I moved here, and like all their beer was like bad. It was like infected, tasted like butter. You know, it was like every beer I had was gross, and I wrote a review of it for the online, the beer blog, and the brewers like went at me like on Twitter, and they're like, our beer's not infected, blah blah. Like they're like you know really fighting with me, and I was just like, yeah, your beer's like you don't have to be like a freaking master cicerone or something to know when the beer tastes like butter or tastes like green apple or like cigarette smoke or something, you know. And they put a sign up behind the bar where they grabbed a screenshot, I think from like my Untapped or my Twitter or something like that, and said, if you see Chad, please direct him to a brewer. And like I never set foot in that place again.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like the joke was on them because they eventually went out of business like a year later. Or I think they sold the brewery to somebody, and then they reopened it under a different name, and they hired a whole new staff and made completely different beers. And actually, I haven't been there in like almost 10, maybe like 8 or 9 years. It's been a long time. So I don't know if you've ever been out to Lakeland. Lakeland's awesome.
Yeah, I've been there a couple times. There's was it Defiant or something or Deviant? There's some.
Are you thinking of Deviant Wolf?
No.
That's in Sanford.
Maybe it starts with a something else with a D. There is one. They also have a brewery in Tampa, I believe. But there's one there. There's also something Swan, I think.
Yeah, Swan Brewing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so I
then
was
there,
there when they first
years ago,
opened.
I went out. There used to was like Two Henrys, something like
Oh
that.
yeah, it's in Plant City, Two Henrys.
Yeah, there's something out there. I used to go. I like went there a couple times. I think they had like cider too. I just remember they had like this blueberry jalapeno beer, which was kind of unique.
You ever
But
had a raspberry jalapeno? Yeah, I remember that blueberry jalapeno.
mhm.
Do you like chili beers?
Not they're too hot. I'm a wimp when it comes to heat. I had like my wings like mild and stuff, but I'll try some of them. Like most of them aren't too bad on the heat. I do remember that blueberry one. It did keep your lips burning for a little
Yeah,
bit.
I like what you were saying earlier, like the more interesting or the crazier the better. Like I
A
love
lot
when
of them are
breweries.
a little heat, but they're not too much. Like the ones like something that adds like habanero or something. Like they're like the balance, the heat and sweet isn't like too much.
Yeah,
Usually
I've told the
it's
story.
pretty good.
I've told the story before on this show, but it's always somebody's first show. So like when I lived in Albany and I was homebrewing, I used to grow Trinidad scorpion peppers in my backyard, like just for kicks. Like I didn't actually eat them or anything. And I made what I called Chad's chocolate cherry chili porter. So it was like, like kind of like an imperial porter base recipe. And then, like when you could say chocolate and beer, really it's mostly just actual vanilla beans or people, you take actual cocoa nibs and you like crush them with a hammer and you throw those in the boil. And then, I got some cherry puree, kind of like the one we had today. And so like 24 hours before I bottled it, I took one of my peppers and like sliced it in half, threw it in the big actually it's like a 7-gallon bucket. And then by the time I bottled it, so it was funny because like it was actually kind of tasted like the beer we had today. But so like take like the beer we had today, and then you add chocolate, and then you add like a chili pepper, but it didn't really taste like chili pepper. It was just kind of like this really warming sensation. The
Mhm.
beer, I believe, was only like maybe 6 or 7% ABV. It wasn't like super strong, so it wasn't like you were getting burned from alcohol. And yeah, I won a bunch of homebrew competitions with that one.
Yeah, it's like most of them do it pretty good where the heat's like not too much.
Mhm.
I could probably find something in one of my check-ins that little
I was
much.
listening to I don't know if you've seen them on YouTube, the craft beer channel. They have a podcast they do called Friday 5 p.m. and they're in England, and Johnny, who's like one of the guys on the show, he was saying he's like, I like my top half loves chili beers, my bottom half does not. Are you sensitive to chili or spiciness or anything like that?
I mean, digestive wise, no. It's like I can't cool down my mouth. Like my lips and my mouth burn and like
Yeah.
it won't cool down. I keep like reapplying lip gloss and I'm like it won't
Mhm.
stop burning.
Yeah. Anyway, we're coming up on an hour or so, so I just wanted to plug your socials again for well, that's me. Um, yeah, so if anybody is watching who isn't familiar with Stephanie, I definitely recommend you check out her Untapped, your craft dash beer girl,
Yeah,
and
that had to do with the punctuation they allowed.
yeah, craft beer girl on YouTube, aka CBG. By the way, you could just get rid of that AKA part. You could just be craft beer girl, or you could
Yeah,
be
and then
Stephanie.
part of it like it was like the overlap at some point when I was using CBG, like when I couldn't get craft beer and girl in there, and
Mhm.
I haven't
And
really touched my YouTube in a while though.
I think
For a
you're
while
most
I had
active.
a Snapchat too, but that was nuts.
Yeah,
For
you're most
some
active on
reason, people
Instagram.
kept sending me pictures of their downstairs, and I don't know why because it was
Yeah.
strictly a beer account.
Yeah. So I'll put links to all your stuff in the description, show notes, or whatever you call it. So thanks again for doing the review of the Le Chouffe. And we have to meet up in person sometime. When's the next beer fest or whatever? Or I don't know.
I don't really go to a lot of beer fests. The one I do every year is the Faded Kingdom one because the other
Yeah.
ones are they're just kind of stuff you can get everywhere. Like I've looked at like the menu and stuff for like Beer America, and I'm like, I can buy all these like anywhere. I've already had them all, so that's why I like
Yeah.
that one. That's the best menu.
Or if you ever come up to Sanford, let me know, because we got. I mean, Hollerbox alone is worth the trip. You've been there, the
Yeah, I
German.
went there maybe like 2 months or so ago and got my big little liter.
Yeah, I love
Like,
that
I'm
place.
not driving. I just been on like a nearby hike, and I'm like, I'm not the one driving, so I'll get my liter.
All right. Well, hope everybody out there checks out Stephanie's stuff, and I will see you guys for the next podcast or beer review. I'm all out of beer. I don't have anything to cheers you with.
Yeah, I've been slowly sipping on mine.
This should be like super. It's probably like cloying now. Is it like super sweet?
It's not super sweet, but a lot sweeter than it was before.
Yeah, it's probably like carbonated jam.
Yeah, it is a little jammy, but
Yeah.
I mean, I like peanut butter and jelly beers, and those are usually more on the jammy than the peanut butter side.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for doing the show, and I will see you guys. I'll see everybody around eventually. All
All right, thanks for having me.
Bye.